Now, the main reason for the president's visit to Marietta today was to talk about his new Trump account program. It gives families seed money to help save for their kids' college and retirement. Let's bring in A&F political reporter Doug Reardon, who is outside Wheeler High School for us. And Doug, the president is very excited about these accounts.
Yeah, he really is, Tracy. And again, the White House said that was the whole reason for his visit here to Wheeler High School, was to push these accounts that launched just this month. And, you know, a lot of members of his administration, even members of his cabinet, that included former Georgia Senator, state senator, and now U.S. Treasurer Brendan Beach, saying that this would be part of Trump's legacy, if not maybe the biggest part of Trump's legacy. And as you heard Abby say, even Rick Jackson said if he was elected, he would match these contributions made to the Trump accounts. The president called up two local families as well who have already enrolled their kids in the program. Those accounts allow for $5,000 annual contributions, and for any baby born during the Trump term, the government will automatically seed those accounts with $1,000. Trump said today the returns could yield those kids thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands by the time they turn 18. And he said it was a change of pace from the way that Washington typically handles investment in youth.
And for decades, Washington politicians gave our children absolutely nothing but debt. But the Trump accounts, we're finally seeing and ensuring that every young American gets a great start in life and a really fair shot at the American dream, which is what we all want. They all aspire to that.
Yeah, critics of this program say that low-income families likely won't be able to see the types of returns that the president is really touting, and touted again here today at Wheeler High School. Not to mention, they're very close to existing 529 college savings plans, which are the contributions tax deductible here in Georgia, whereas for the Trump account ones, they are not. We're outside Wheeler High School in Cobb County. Doug Reardon, Atlanta News.